So you're minding your own business, saving money, paying your bills on time, living within your means. And then one day you hear some world leaders arguing about money. They say they need to borrow more and they can't pay back what they already owe. And you think to yourself, wait a minute, aren't we all in this together? Don't we all have to pay our debts? Well, yes, but also no. See, it's not that simple. You see, every country has its own central bank, which acts like a big bank for that country. The central bank prints money, sets interest rates, and lends money to the government. We have the Federal Reserve here in the US, the Eurozone has the European Central Bank, and almost every other country has one too. And these central banks basically own the country's debt. So when governments spend more than they earn, they borrow money from their central banks, which creates massive national debts. So the real question is, which countries owe the most money? Let's take a look at the top 10 list. Number 10 is Japan with 254% of its GDP in debt, owing roughly $9.2 trillion. No. 9 is the United States with 122% of its GDP in debt, owing approximately $34 trillion. Italy comes next with 144% of its GDP in debt, owing around $3.1 trillion. France is slightly better off with 112% of its GDP in debt, owing around $3.5 trillion, and the United Kingdom is at 101% of its GDP in debt, owing about $3.3 trillion. Now it's important to note that this debt isn't just owed to the central banks. Foreign investors and institutions like the IMF and the World Bank also play a part in these loans. But the central banks do hold a significant portion of each country's debt. For example, the Bank of Japan holds about 50% of Japan's government debt. Canada has 107% of its GDP in debt, owing around $2.5 trillion. Spain is at 113% of its GDP in debt, owing around $1.7 trillion. China comes in at 80% of its GDP in debt, owing a whopping $15 trillion. India follows with 82% of its GDP in debt, owing around $3.7 trillion. And finally, Brazil has 87% of its GDP in debt, owing around $1.8 trillion. These numbers might seem like a lot, but they're just a tiny fraction of the total global debt, which is estimated to be around $88 trillion. That's more than 10 times the size of the global economy. Anyway, thanks for watching.